Texas football goes to the wire with West Virginia in a thriller. Volleyball remains undefeated at home in conference play, and Andrew Jones returns to the court. All this and more next on College Press Box. Hello and welcome into College Press Box, the most comprehensive sports show on the 40 acres. I'm your host, Thomas Fitch, joined alongside Daniel Shih.
Well, Tom Herman's crew came off a 35-38 loss to Stillwater on October 27th, which made the top of the Big 12 a three-way tie between Oklahoma, Texas, and West Virginia. The Mountaineers traveled to Austin knowing a win would boost their chances for the admission to the Big 12 championship game, whereas the Longhorns returned to the DKR for the first time in 3 weeks as Texas looked to stay on top of the Big 12 standings. Let's head down to DKR for the highlights. West Virginia gets an early field goal, but Sam Ellinger and his crew says, no, we're getting this league back. Finds Lil John Humphrey for a big play and converts for a TD. Will Greer finds David Sills the fifth for a 60-yard touchdown to get the lead back. To get the lead back, but Sam Ellinger passes to LJ Humphrey again. At this point, nobody's stopping nobody, and West Virginia probably put some butter on their legs. Texas couldn't tackle all day long. That was Martell Pettaway for a 50-yard run for a touchdown. Sam Ellinger in the second half finds Trey Watson and passes three defenders. Best game Trey Watson has had as a Longhorn. And Sam Ellinger in the fourth quarter finds LJ Humphrey again. No, that is not a replay. That is actually a different catch from the one you saw earlier. And at this point, again, Texas and West Virginia just exchanging touchdowns. But on the last scoring play, West Virginia quarterback Greer, a 33-yard pass to Gary Jennings Jr. for a touchdown, pulls West Virginia within one, and then a two-point conversion for Greer, who walks into the end zone and puts West Virginia up 2 points to 42-41. And that is a hectic highlights for a hectic game, isn't that right?
Yeah, it really was a great game. For more on this thriller, let's send it down to our very own Steve Helwick.
Will Greer, Sam Ellinger, the two Big 12 quarterbacks combined for 700 passing yards and a good old-fashioned Big 12 quarterback duel. But the game was decided by Dana Holgerson's bold call to go for a two-point conversion with 16 seconds left on the clock.
We thought we could, defend the slant and still get to the QB draw, and the kid
We now welcome football analyst Sean Mapes and Cameron Parker. Gentlemen, Texas obviously loses to West Virginia, but I quite remember what he said.
I knew exactly that. Like, after the call timeout on the slant, I knew what he was going to do. I was screaming it. I was saying it. I knew exactly what he was going to do. And he did it. And walked into the end zone.
The Longhorns led the Mountaineers for almost the entire second half, but the defense could not contain Will Greer and Gary Jennings as the two connected for a long touchdown pass with just a little time remaining on the clock.
Will is an incredible player. They have an explosive offense, and with 2.5 minutes, they can do a lot of things. So I don't think there was any deep breath on our sideline. We understood that they were very capable of moving the ball and doing some explosive things with the talent that they have.
The loss to West Virginia at home marks Texas's first home loss of the season and their second straight loss after a 6-game winning streak. Now the Longhorns must recover with a couple tough games remaining.
I mean, you think about how close we've been in these games that we've lost. It's really close, and it comes down to a couple plays, a couple situations, and so that's encouraging, but it's not a good feeling to ever lose.
From Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium in Austin, I'm Steve Helwick, TSTV Sports.
We now welcome on our own football analyst, Sean Mapes, Cameron Parker. And gentlemen, Texas obviously falls to West Virginia, but when you look at the stats, nearly identical, both run the same number of plays, they have the same number of first downs, they average almost the same number of yards per play, only difference in this game being the Mountaineers going for 2 at the end of the game and converting. So should fans be upset with this loss?
I think being frustrated with the result against West Virginia, it's understandable. I mean, anytime you're that close to a win against one of the best teams in the conference and you don't pull out the win, it stings a little. But I think it shows that Texas isn't quite up to the national level that everyone hoped they would be at during the 6-game win streak. If you want to be discouraged by the defense, I get that. 2 straight weeks giving up a ton of points. But I think you should be comforted by this offense that is really flying right now. You got L.J. Humphrey. He's mossing people left and right. Seems like every week he's making an NFL play. You got Keontae Ingram, looks like a reliable option at running back, something we haven't seen here since Deontay Foreman a couple years ago. And Sam Ehlinger has proven time and time again that he is capable of leading this team and taking care of the ball as he does it. So I get it. You're bummed that Texas, is going to need some help to get into the Big 12 title game, but I still think this is the best team. I mean, it's clearly the best team we've seen here in a long, long time.
Yeah, I agree with Sean. Texas just lost to a top 10 team with one of the best quarterbacks in college football on a great throw and catch. Should Texas have won? Sure. Should they have gone for it in 4th and 1 instead of kicking the field goal to go up by 7? Maybe. Yeah, Texas let this win get away, but they have accomplished more than anyone thought they would after the Maryland loss. A 6-3 record this far into the season is Texas's best since 2013.
Yeah, y'all talked about the offense performance. Ehlinger looking really good and a lot of bright hope for the future for the Longhorns. But over the past 2 matchups, the Texas defense has given up 80 points, over 1,000 yards of offense, and has struggled to get off the field on 3rd downs, allowing more than a 50% conversion rate in the games against Oklahoma State and West Virginia. This is a far cry from a defense that was ranked 2nd in the Big 12 last year, and even from how the team played earlier on this season. So what happened to cause this just reversal for the defense?
Yeah, the defense definitely fallen off the last couple weeks, but I don't want to overreact to this last game against offense. Top 10 in yards per play. It's led by a Heisman caliber quarterback, Will Greer. He's not going to win this year, we know that, but he's good enough to win a Heisman. And what was more troubling to me was the 38 points against Oklahoma State in Stillwater. Now, they do have to play Texas Tech this week. And we'll have to see about the availability of seniors like Brecken Hager, Devontae Davis, Chris Nelson, because the OK State game, they were out seniors early in the game. It was a little bit different circumstances, but that's how Oklahoma State was able to get that big lead. They responded in the second half. But it's definitely hard depending on these less experienced guys in hostile environments like they're going to see in Lubbock on Saturday. Now, for the Red Raiders, Alan Bowman is still dealing with his punctured lung. He was playing through that last week, but they still have the backup Jet Duffy over at Tech, and with him at quarterback, they're still a dangerous team. We saw that again last Saturday in Lubbock. They gave OU all they could handle. So I think even with the backup quarterback Duffy, this is still a dangerous team. Then there might be some more points on Saturday.
Yeah, I just don't think that Texas has the talent on defense to be able to contend for a college football playoff. Of course, losing your starting safety, cornerback, linebacker, defensive tackle, it's going to be tough to beat anybody. But I think there's a major drop-off from last year's defense to this year's defense. Todd Orlando decided to drop back an extra safety to help over the top the covering David Sills, and Texas gave up 232 rushing yards as a result. And I'm not sure I understand why Orlando decided to play Jeffrey McCulloch over B.J. Foster for most of the second half. The ineffectiveness of the defensive line and linebackers the last 2 games is baffling to me.
Yeah, Sean, you brought up the injuries. Brecken Hager diagnosed with a dislocated elbow. Devontae Davis has a strained neck and shoulders. No timetable yet on when they'll return. So Texas now sits at 6-3 on the season with a loss to West Virginia. They no longer control their own destiny to make it to the Big 12 championship. With just 3 regular season games left, does Texas need a win out to avoid a failed season?
I think one loss to Texas Tech or Iowa State, it won't make this season a failure. I mean, even with one more loss, you're still looking at an 8-4 season before you get into the postseason. You can pick up an extra win. 9 wins sounds a lot better. But it's definitely not going to be the explosive success that we were expecting after the OU game. Everyone got a little excited. Maybe a little too excited. But you have to remember this team the last 4 years has gone 6 wins, 5 wins, 5 wins, 7 wins. So this is a natural growth, natural progression. And I think this team has just looked better. Just a blanket eye test. I think they just look better than in previous years. But if we're talking 2 losses or any loss to Kansas, I think we're entering into failed season territory. I mean, loss to Kansas. You can ask Charlie Strong how that one went. So I think, win against Kansas, win another game, everything's good.
If you think this season is a failure, then you haven't watched the last 8 seasons of Texas football. Texas clinched bowl eligibility in October. It's November, and they still have a shot at the Big 12 championship game and a New Year's Six bowl. Just because Texas was ranked 6th at one point in the season doesn't actually mean they're the 6th best team in the nation. The entitled Texas fans who are crying, saying this season is a failure, remind me of the entitled Texas players who are part of Mac Brown's final seasons.
Yeah, well, gentlemen, thanks again for joining me. Great analysis, as always. When we return, we catch up with the volleyball and soccer teams as they both near postseason play. Welcome back into College Press Box. The Texas volleyball team was back in action this past week at home.
That's right, Thomas. Texas volleyball took on the TCU Horned Frogs last Wednesday at Gregory Gym. The Horns dominated the first set with a well-balanced performance on both the offensive and defensive side of the court, taking the set 25-13. However, Ashley Shook and the Horns struggled in the second set, posting a 16% hitting percentage and allowing a comeback by the Horned Frogs to lose the set 25-20. Longhorn struggles continues in the beginning of the third set until Jenna Gabriel was subbed in for Ashley Shook to rejuvenate the offense. Gabriel would post 22 assists in the last two sets, a career high for the freshman, and Texas would cruise to victory, staying undefeated at home in conference play. For more on Texas' triumph over TCU, here's our very own Justin Morris.
A rainy Halloween night did not stop Texas fans from coming out to Gregory Gym to watch the number 6 Longhorn volleyball team take on the TCU Horned Frogs. The Longhorns took the first set and looked comfortable. However, TCU had other plans. The Horned Frogs slowed down Texas's momentum by taking the second set to tie the match. Coach Jarrett Elliott switched out setters in the third set by bringing in freshman Jenna Gabriel to revitalize the Texas offense. The freshman setter felt very comfortable on the court immediately.
Everybody that was on the court came up to me and was like, hey, you got this, like grabbed my hand, made that kind of eye contact, just so that we could get right into it without kind of having to go backwards before we could go forward.
And Texas did just that by keeping the game alive all the way through the last second as Texas won the match 3-1. A tough win to the Horned Frogs gears the Longhorns up for the home stretch of Big 12 conference play.
I think this is kind of the grind of the season where things get really, really tough for everyone. And my goal is to give them a little break emotionally right now and get them fresh and kind of ready to battle for the next few matches of the Big 12 before the NCAA tournament.
I think we're just starting to kind of find our stride. I think we're still on that path looking for it, but you can see the progress throughout the season, and I think that we'll be peaking at the right time, which is good.
From Gregory Gym, this is Justin Morris, TSTV Sports.
Texas currently sits ranked 5th nationally, but would need to be in the top 4 in order to host a super regional. While they've cruised through the Big 12, Daniel, does the weakness of this conference hurt Texas as far as moving up into those rankings?
I think so. Definitely the lack of national powerhouses in the Big 12 certainly hurts Texas' resume, and this was proven last year when Texas was undefeated in the Big 12 but failed to secure a top 4 seed in the country. Jared Elliott told me last week that securing top 4 seed in the rest of the season will be the goal, but Texas has not been ranked in the top 4 since they lost to Kansas in October 10th, and that I think is a huge blow for Texas' chances to gain the top 4 in the country. At this point, Texas does not control their destiny. They have to rely on the Big Ten because in the committee ranking that came out October 31st, Wisconsin and Illinois are ahead of Texas in terms of getting that 4th seed. Wisconsin lost to Michigan, so I think they're out of the picture right now. But Nebraska is crawling back. With 5 conference losses, I think it'll be tough for them to overtake Texas. Illinois, I think, is the only roadblock left. They still have Purdue and Penn State in their schedule, which are the top 16 teams in the country. They could easily fall to either one of them, and at that point, I think Texas have a shot. But in order to do that, they need to win out in the weak Big 12, or else they don't have a shot.
Yeah, and they probably need to do that in dominant fashion to kind of boost that. You know, as we're talking about, Texas obviously ranked high nationally, but do they have enough star power to compete with elite teams like BYU, Penn State, Minnesota, or Illinois, as you brought up?
I think when you look at the personnel of this team, I think Texas is good enough to win the Big 12, but again, we just discussed it. It's not that good. I think they have the personnel can allow them to compete for a Final Four, but can they go to the national championship, maybe win? I don't think so. Volleyball needs, I think, 1 more year for the stars to emerge. You look at, there's only 2 seniors on this team, Morgan Johnson and Jasmine Badar-Honey. They haven't had the playing time that seniors do get. on a volleyball team. Micaiah White, the clear star of this team, is only a junior. She's going to be back next year. Ashley Shook, this primary setter, is only a sophomore, and she's only going to develop. She developed tremendously this past offseason, and she's going to get better in the future. You look at Brian Butler and Logan Eggleston, who are both freshmen, but they're the starting outside hitters for this team. They've shown moments of greatness, but they're not as consistent. I think with one more offseason, getting used to the rhythms in college volleyball, they're gonna be much better next year. I think overall this team is good enough talent-wise, but they don't have enough development to compete somebody against Stanford, BYU, and Minnesota. But can they compete for a Final Four? Certainly. But let's move on to the soccer pitch. Soccer is eyeing the NCAA tournament after the Big 12 championship tournament last weekend. Number 18 Texas Soccer took on the number 14 West Virginia Mountaineers in the semifinal stage of the Big 12 championship tournament. The Mountaineers controlled the game, outshooting the Horns 28-9 with 9 shots on goals against Angela Kelly's crew. One of those hit the back of the net at the 64th minute to send the Mountaineers to the finals on Sunday, where they would defeat the Baylor to win the Big 12 championship title. So let me ask you this: so Texas narrowly beat Kansas in the Big 12 championship. West Virginia controlled the semifinal matchup. Are you satisfied with Texas' result in the Big 12 championship?
Well, I don't know if I would say I was encouraged. I definitely would say that I was not discouraged by the results. I know the Longhorns would have loved it to make it to the championship game and have a shot at winning that, and a shot of kind of boosting their tournament resume with a win over Baylor. But losing to West Virginia, the team that would go on to the championship and win it all, not the most disappointing result, and obviously didn't affect the Horns that much as far as seeding in the tournament.
That's right. West Virginia played the regular season champ in the Big 12, and they put up a great performance. So Texas certainly did not disappoint many people. And I mean, they're back in the NCAA tournament. The NCAA announced the tournament bracket earlier today. Texas Soccer earned a number 4 seed and a chance to host the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament. 5 other Big 12 teams also made the cut, including Big 12 regular season Baylor, Big 12 tournament champion West Virginia, TCU, Texas Tech, and Kansas. So when you look at this Texas team going into the NCAA tournament, what are your expectations? And especially for the Big 12 as a conference, do you expect West Virginia and Baylor to do well?
You know, I have high expectations for Texas. I think they could really be a sleeper team and make a run in the tournament. They're scrappy. They have a lot of returners. They were in the tournament last year. You know, they had kind of a Cinderella season last year, and, you know, they fell short. But this year they're kind of continuing that with more experience. So I think because of that, they have a chance to make a run in the tournament as far as being a championship caliber team. I don't think they will contend for a championship. But I think we can see a good run from Texas. Looking at the rest of the Big 12, I actually think Texas is the best chance for the conference to make it far. I see Baylor, West Virginia bowing out earlier than they would like to. I'd say if I were making predictions, I'd say Texas goes to the Elite 8 and West Virginia and Baylor fall short in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I think we all would want the Big 12 teams to advance further into the NCAA tournament as a Big 12 school. But great analysis from Thomas. And remember, if you want to watch the remainder of the Texas volleyball regular season at Gregory Gym, make sure you go buy the Big Ticket at texassports.com.
That's right, Daniel. The Big Ticket is a must for all UT students. When we come back, we have none other than Steve Helwick taking us around the nation looking at the most thrilling results from college football over the weekend. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome back to College Press Box. College football this weekend. Did you not miss all 62 games? Well, in case you attempt to break the space-time continuum, we have you covered here. Earlier in the show, we saw the instant classic of West Virginia and Texas. The 2 Big 12 foes were just separated by one gutsy 2-point conversion called by Dana Holgerson. Yes, there were other ranked games this weekend, but none of them lived up to the hype. I mean, Georgia erased Kentucky, Michigan just exterminated Penn State, then Alabama did Alabama things in Death Valley and won 29-0. But believe it or not, Alabama actually doesn't have the longest win streak in college football, and it looks like they never lose again. But let's check on the longest streaks in the nation. UCF,
longest winning streak, and UTEP longest losing streak. Let's cut to the bounce house in Orlando, Florida to see how the 20-game winning streak did with the Knights.
Points off the board now from 22.
Temple, they do not give a hoot about UCF's 20-game winning streak, going for 2 and taking a 10-point lead. Second time Knights have trailed by double digits during the streak, but Mackenzie Milton to Greg McRae, touchdown, knight in shining armor. McRae would have 188 yards in the game. Mackenzie to McRae. I'll have the Mackenzie-McRae combo with a side of a touchdown and an undefeated record. UCF 21 straight, but on the other side of 21 straight wins is 20 straight losses, which the UTEP Miners have. But Rice here trying to keep that streak alive, but they fail to do it. UTEP wins their first game in 714 days. Coach Dana Dimmel gets his first win as a Miners coach and the Gatorade bath. UTEP hands the nation's longest losing streak to the Rice Owls, who have now lost 9 straight. Those were both thrilling games, the longest win streak UCF and the longest losing streak UTEP. But we have a couple more thrilling games we'd like to take you through the action this weekend. Let's go 100 yards in 100 seconds to catch some of the other nation's best games of the weekend. Starting with Pac-12 after dark, Washington State, only Pac-12 team with fewer than 3 losses. Wow, Skylar Thomas skydives in, taps both toes in for the interception. Now Washington State on the game-winning drive. Gardner Minshew with a mustache to Jameer Calvin across midfield. Minshew, he's going deep to Aesop Winston inside the 10-yard line. What a throw by Minshew. And one more throw, Minshew to Winston. Winston. Washington State still atop the Pac-12, and they're in the top 10. Iowa and Purdue, Big Ten country now. David Blau, Terry Wright, and Purdue is up 12 points, but the Hawkeyes are going to fly high. Mekhi Sargent drills into the end zone, giving the Hawkeyes a 1-point lead over the Boilermakers. But Purdue, Spencer Evans, he's going to keep the train rolling. Purdue beats their 3rd-ranked team of the year at Ross-Ade Stadium, taking down the Hawkeyes. Now moving to the Big 12, Oklahoma State trying to get that momentum off that win over Texas last week. Justice Hill brings it into the end zone, and that is a 10-point lead with under 9 minutes to go. Charlie Brewer, he sees a comeback of brewing. Charlie Brewer to the former Tennessee running back Jalen Hurd, now a Baylor wide receiver. He dodges a couple defenders, says, "Are you not entertained?" Then he hits the floater in the celebration. Baylor just down 3 now. Charlie Brewer. Denzel Mims on the jump ball. Strong arms it, catches it. Baylor, in the waning seconds of the game, defeats Oklahoma State, and the Bears are back to a winning record at 5-4. Now we're in November, so college football is down to its final stretch of the season, which means college basketball is just beginning. And a Texas star whose basketball career could have come to an unfortunate halt last January, he'll talk about his battle with leukemia and his road back to the hardwood next. Stay tuned.
For the final time tonight, welcome back to College Press Box. TSTV Sports Crew went down to Wright Whitaker Sports Complex last Friday as Texas Longhorns Rugby took on the Texas State Bobcats. Thomas Fitch and Cameron Parker had the call.
Texas Longhorns taking on the Texas State Bobcats, a little I-35 rivalry up the middle. What a play there. Nothing. Over to Cullinan. And that try is good, and he's wide open across the middle of the field. Texas State nearing the line. Is he going to get in? Ball is down. The try is good.
Get it again. A lot of move on the other.
Oh, with the free kick. Not exactly sure what he's doing there. If that ball will stop and Texas can recover, it will be a try. It's recovered, and it appears it's a try for Texas. Score here would just about be a nail in the coffin. Not quite, but just about. Ball on the far side, and look at that speed by Texas State. He's to the 22-meter line. That's a mirror for Texas State. Cutting it back towards the middle, and that try is going to be good. That's going to do it here tonight in Austin. The Texas State Bobcats just out-dominating, out-hustling, and outplaying the Longhorns in the second half. They're going to go on to win 39-31.
The 5th-ranked Texas men's swimming and diving team picked up a win in Austin over the 11th-ranked Texas A&M Aggies Friday night at the Texas Swimming Center. It was a dominating win by Texas, who won 11 of 16 events en route to winning 180-113. John Shabat put down the fastest time in the NCAA this year in the 200 IM. He also set the 8th quickest time in the NCAA this year in the 100 back with a 47.34 seconds time.
Number 1 Texas women's swimming and diving team also took on number 6 Texas A&M Aggies on Friday night at the Texas Swimming Center. The Longhorns would be victorious with a 172-123 score against the Aggies. Jonah Evans marked the highlight for the Horns on Friday. She set the NCAA fastest pace of the year in a 1,000-meter freestyle with her 9-minute and 47-second performance. The Lady Horns extended their winning streak over the Aggies to 16 with a win on Friday. Texas would travel to number 2 Stanford on November 9th and number 5 Cal on November 10th.
Second-ranked women's golf finished 3rd over the weekend at the Battle of the Beach in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Caitlin Papp led Texas with her 3rd top 10 finish of the season, as 4 Longhorns finished in the top 20. It was the 4th top 5 finish of the season for the Longhorns, who will tee it up next in February at the Northrop Grumman Intercollegiate in California.
Junior Anna Tarati advanced to the 3rd qualifying round at the ITF 24K Pro Circuit event yesterday. She needs one more victory in the qualifying round to advance to the tournament's 32-player main draw. Anna's sister Bianca Tarati had already earned a spot in the main tournament and will begin play on Tuesday, November 6th. Senior Katie Paluda also competed in the qualifying round on Sunday, but would fall to WTA-ranked 729th Catherine Harrison in 3 sets.
Let's look at what's coming up this week in Longhorn sports. On Tuesday, men's basketball kicks off their season at home against Eastern Illinois. That'll be at 7 o'clock on Longhorn Network. On Wednesday, softball has a doubleheader, and volleyball takes on Kansas State. That's also at home at 7 o'clock. On Thursday, women's basketball plays their 2nd game of the season. That's at home against Duquesne. That'll be at 7 o'clock. Then on Friday, men's basketball is going to travel to Fort Bliss, Texas for the Armed Force Classic. They'll be facing off against the Arkansas Razorbacks. That'll be at 6 o'clock on ESPN. Saturday, women's volleyball looks for revenge against Kansas. Their 1 conference loss. That's 1 p.m. on Longhorn Network. And football travels up to Lubbock, where they'll face the Texas Tech Red Raiders. That will be 6:30 on Fox.
Texas men's basketball star Andrew Jones averaged 13.5 points per game and shot 57% from the field, 46% behind the arc, until Jones was diagnosed with leukemia in early January. The news stunned the 40 acres, and Jones had to withdraw from classes at Texas to undergo treatment. After months of treatment and recovery, Andrew Jones was cleared to play in the 2018-2019 season. He held an emotional press conference last week to address his status to the Texas fan base. Here is TSTV's very own Eric Goodman for more on Andrew Jones.
When we were doing like the conditioning, I just felt it hard for me to, catch my wind.
In January, Andrew Jones felt the first traces of the disease that threatened to claim his life, leukemia.
Cancer has always been my biggest fear. When I got the diagnosis, it was like, okay, I'm sick. I've never been this sick before. So I just took an open mindset. I was just optimistic about the situation, just knowing that, okay, my time's not up yet.
A combination of bravery, medical expertise, and an outpouring of support from within and beyond the UT community proved Andrew right. He's back.
Being able to fly around, be on the court, actually have something to look forward to every day. Like, I just love basketball, so anytime I get a chance to be out there with the team, I'm going to take full advantage.
In December, Andrew will go see his doctors again for another round of treatment. But in the meantime, he's clocking in as many hours here at Texas's basketball facility and in the weight room as he possibly can.
Our biggest emphasis from the beginning has been, him being able to work to return his body to full strength. That allows you to do what you can do really well on a basketball floor.
People may probably doubt what I maybe can do if I'm not going to be the same, but ultimately I plan on becoming better, being better than I was when I left.
Jones hopes to take the court for the first time in 9 months, November 6th, when Texas opens the season against Eastern Illinois. From Cooley Pavilion, I'm Eric Goodman, TSTV Sports.
great coverage by Eric right there. Certainly an inspirational story from Andrew Jones. I still remember when they announced that they diagnosed leukemia for Jones. They played TCU that exact day, went to overtime and won just by 1 point. And when TCU missed that layup, you could see the raw emotions from Shaka Smart, and that really hit home.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Daniel. It's great to have him back on the 40 acres, and we hope to see him on the court this season. Anyways, that's all we have for you tonight, but make sure you check out our sister show, College Crossfire, Wednesday nights at 9, hosted by Jonathan Polasic. For everyone in studio and in Master Control, I'm Thomas Fitch.
I'm Daniel Shih.
Have a good night.